All right. Welcome into our mini lesson today. This is our third mini lesson in a series of 12. And the one that we're going to be talking about today is about creating sacred space. Now, if you haven't yet watched the other ones, please note that I will be sending this out in an email as a replay. If you're catching this on the replay, you can find all the videos in one spot. So if you haven't caught them yet, go back and check it out because they do sort of build on each other as we go along. Um, this is all based on the Priestess Path curriculum, and our next Priestess Path cohort starts August 23rd. So if you're interested in getting on the wait list for that and getting first access to signing up, you can follow that link, and that wait list link will be in the same place this replay will. So there you go. So we're going to be talking about creating sacred space. Like, what is it? Why do we do it? What's that all about? And the thing about sacred space, I want you to just think for a moment about a place that you might have been that felt sacred to you. So this could be a place in nature. This might be a church or some other place of worship. But when you think about that place, you might think about the energy that place holds. One of the most profound places that I ever went to that felt very sacred to me, and I was shocked, was walking into cathedrals when I was over in the UK and in Europe. Walking into these cathedrals that were massive and had taken sometimes centuries to build. And the amount of people who had put their energy into not only the creation of these places, but then the amount of people who had come in and left their fingerprint or energetic fingerprint of worship and honoring and their own sacred energy into these places had created this vibration in these spaces that I was actually really surprised about, not being of Christian persuasion or background, just really feeling, wow, this is a sacred place simply because of the energy that lives here. So when we are working our magic, we would like to have a space that also feels sacred. Now, this can be simply walking out into nature, right? If nothing else, when you're connecting with the energies of the world and you're working with them and calling them into being, into your spaces, stepping out into nature can be a really simple way to do that. The next step in that would be to create a space around you in which you're doing your work. Now, some people might do this specifically for protection, which is part of what happens. You create an energetic space in which you are working your craft, and that becomes protective in and of itself. It also can support your work by containing the energy that you're raising. So there's that as well. The other thing that happens when we create sacred space is we deepen into a more trance-like state. So anytime you really start to work with visualization, work with energy, you're really inviting more of that shift in your brain chemistry, that shift in the way that your brain is firing. And this can allow us to sink deeper into our own visioning, imagining, and trance work, which is often what we're doing when we're working with magic. It's not the only thing we're doing, but it's often what ends up happening. It's that changing consciousness at will. So creating a specific sacred space allows us all of these things. And usually when we're talking about witchcraft, we're doing that by creating a circle. So creating a circle can be as simple as, if you're by yourself, you might draw with your vision a circle around you. You might actually use items to mark a circle around you. So maybe it's stones or salt or yarn or a hula hoop also round. That will totally work. But you can create a circle in a myriad of ways. And everybody kind of has their own way of doing that or likes to try different ways of doing that. But the idea is you're casting an energetic circle, and that is one way to create sacred space. Another way to create sacred space is to create an altar. Now, many of us probably already have altars in our home or have worked with altars at some point. Sometimes altars can be for a specific thing. Maybe it's an honoring of a deity or a specific spell that you're working, or a seasonal altar for a time of year. Maybe you have a working altar in your home. I have one of these in my kitchen. It's sort of my everything altar where I do spell work. It goes on that altar. We have sections of it that are for our ancestors. It sort of changes with seasons, but it is always there and it's always in process. So I call that my working altar, and you might have one of those as well. But creating an altar can be done out again in nature using natural items. So you're creating a space in which you are working or you have a specific intention. Maybe you're working with the spirits of the land and you're creating an altar to honor them and also to connect with them. So it's a place you go to connect with them. Perhaps you leave offerings. And when you think about creating an altar, it can be as simple as going out and noticing what really grabs you. Oh, this rock really stands out to me for some reason. This stick, I love it. My husband just saved me a stick as he was pruning the yard because it's just a stick. I'm not even sure what kind of wood it is. It might be privet, but it has a coil, a very thick coil of jasmine that had made its way around it. And the woods had sort of melded together and grown into each other. And he's like, I saved this for you because I know you like to make wands, and this would be a good wand. And I was like, thank you. That'd be a great altar item also to represent earth, to represent connectivity, working together, that type of energy. It could also be used in a binding ritual if you wanted to go that way with it. But basically, what I'm saying is any item that speaks to you can be used for your altar. It can be used in a magical way. So we are going to take 5 minutes here and we're going to do a quick exercise. I'm going to invite you to step away from your computer for the next 5 minutes. I'm even going to set a little timer. And I want you to grab 5 items, one to represent earth, one to represent air, fire, water, and spirit. And do not overthink this. Just you could even just sit where you're sitting and look around your space and see if you're in a space where there's things. I have lots of things in my space, but maybe you don't. Maybe you run to the next room where your things are. But just take a quick glance around your home and gather these 5 items and then come back. So, ready, set, go. And if you can hear me, you can begin to make your way back to the screen, back to our space, bringing your items with you. Again, this is not something to overthink. It's just about what stands out to you most immediately. And then I'm going to invite you to orient yourself to the space that you're in, so your home space, and figure out which direction is north. And once you've figured that out, you can, in front of you, place, or to the side of you, however you're oriented in your room, place your item for your earth to the north. To the right of that, you're going to place your, or right and down. So if we're thinking about a circle here or a square, right and down, you're going to put your east item. And then south, moving around like a clock. And then west. So west is water, south is fire, east is air, north is earth. And in the center for spirit of all of these items, you will put your item to represent center. And you have just made an elemental altar. It's that easy. So you may choose to work with this altar. You might choose to move it to a different location, or maybe you like the location it's at. But you can use sort of what we talked about in our last lesson to work with these energies here in this space that you've just created, an altar to honor the elements. And I'll just show you some of the items that I grabbed. I grabbed 2 for each direction just to give you an idea of like how varied these can be. So for the east, I have a feather. It's a little dilapidated, poor thing. I think my cat's got it. And I also have a pendant here. This is a owl pendant. So birds, feathers, you could use smoke. You could really use anything that speaks to you. I was actually looking for seeds. I thought I had some seeds in here because I think about casting seeds to the wind, ideas, new possibilities. So then to the south, I have this carnelian and I have a candle. So there's our fire, my fire. And then to the west, I actually have a jar of moon water right there because of course I do. And a shell that I have in a bowl of rocks over here. So water in a shell. And then for north, it's dropping everything. I don't have a lot of space around me to be able to set these easily, but this is a piece of bone. And then I also have a piece of petrified wood. So that's my earth. And then for center, I love this pine cone and it just reminds me of that center, you know? So even though it could potentially be earth, I'm using it for center. And then I also have a piece of obsidian that feels very time out of time, very portalish to me. So this is what I chose for my center. So just in this quick little 20 minutes together today, you have learned a little bit about sacred space and created an altar. How about that? So that draws to a close our lesson today on sacred space. You might choose to start building altars all over the place if you don't do that already, but it's really a fun thing to play with and to create different nooks and crannies in your home that represent different things to you. Tomorrow, or excuse me, not tomorrow, Wednesday, we'll be coming together. So day after tomorrow, we'll be coming together to be talking about ritual creation. So really this idea of bringing together the pieces that we've talked about so far and putting them together to create a ritual. So that is what we will come back together to do then. And I look forward to reconnecting at that time. Until then, take really good care, everyone. Be well.